I know you heard me on the radio. Flexing, she loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K. I know you heard me on the radio. Flexing, she loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K.
Rutgers Scarlet Knights fans, welcome to another edition of Night Watch. We get to celebrate a victory Wednesday night against Northwestern on the road. If you're going to be a perennial tournament team, if you're going to have a successful season, if you want to be at the upper half and in the upper teams and in the discussion with the Big Ten, you're going to have to win games like this. And I don't say that because Northwestern's not a good team. They are one of the better defensive teams in the league. They have a winning record, both in conference and overall, and they were going to be a good adversary and a formidable opponent. So I'm not saying you have to beat them because you should. I'm saying that is a team, though, where if you look at the talent, you look at the way we match up, and it's a road game that enhances your resume, you want to pull that out, especially after the way we played and what happened to us against Iowa. So I told you I wasn't jumping off the bridge with Iowa. That happens. Again, I go back to it every time. The Ohio State road loss hurts because Iowa is the type of game that might happen once in a while. And we're the type of game that Iowa needed to have if they wanted to stay in the conversation last weekend, which they did. We get to have a chance at revenge at Ohio State this Sunday, and I hope we get it. It's well-deserved. But let's talk about tonight. First of all, I think the way we played, the way we matched up and the way we played offensively tonight, quite frankly, we should have won that game by much more. It should not have been a nail-biter. Now, you don't take anything for granted in this league. You don't take anything for granted on the road, and you don't take anything for granted against well-coached, well-balanced teams. That being said, we had a bunch of missteps down the stretch that made the game closer than I think it should have been. Early in the game, you just saw, again, everybody playing their offensive role, everybody doing what they're supposed to do. Cam Spencer, wow. I mean, any questions about whether or not he could play at this level just out the window. Like I said, his swag is there. You could tell when he released that last shot how his swag was. Kid went off the friggin' wall. 23 points. 23 points. 2 assists, 5 rebounds. Just a beast. Just a beast. Largely because of him, we shot 11 of 18, 61% from 3. 61% from 3. Free throws, 8 of 10, 80%. And I know Aaron Brightman. Aaron, they gave you a shout out, and they gave you a shout out on the broadcast for your article regarding the free throws. We could be at our best free throwing clip in 50 years. Just amazing with Scarlet Faithful. So shout out to Aaron. And by the way, Aaron Brightman is the one who gave me my start on the Banks. And I don't write on the Banks all the time, but when I have a piece to write, like I recently wrote about Coach Schiano needing to go outside the program for his OC hire, when I do, check that byline that says Lawrence Crane. The reason is Aaron Brightman brought me on, and I'm able to stay with Greg Patuto now, and he's another great guy. So shout out to him. But 80% from the free throw line, just great. Cliff, I thought Cliff looked like he rebounded a bit. Cliff only had 4 points, but he had 11 rebounds. 11 rebounds. He was good on the boards tonight. I thought he looked good on D. I thought he was a good piece today that really changed how Northwestern had to play, which is a huge bounce back from the Iowa game. Dean Reber, 3 points, no rebounds, no assists. I thought the initial substitution for Dean, because of the way they were playing us with the picks and rolls and us not being able to switch, getting some open looks down low, I liked going to Dean again. He's gonna provide that perimeter defense and that quickness on defense. I thought it worked out well for the first half of Dean's minutes, but then it fell off and it was kind of a liability. Derek Simpson, he's gonna have on games and off games. He's a young player. He's gonna be fine. I'm excited about him, but the last couple games, a little bit of a liability there on offense, just getting a little sloppy, so he didn't get as much. And that's just going to happen game to game, and that's just going to be something we see. Mawot Mag hit a nice 3, decent minutes on defense, just still some rough passes and some liabilities. on certain ends of the floor. I think Hyatt got some of his minutes, and Hyatt, 10 points. You're going to need Hyatt to be scoring in double digits if you're going to win games in the Big Ten, and he did it again this year. Paul Mulcahy, 12 points, 6 assists, 6 rebounds. Paul, I love the kid. I love Paul Mulcahy. Paul Mulcahy is one of my favorite players. He's a leader on the team. He's a great facilitator. He hit some really clutch threes down the stretch tonight that were needed when we needed him. And again, he's facilitating. He had a nice underhand layup. But he's got to at least try to get a hold of his emotions. And I say this as somebody who watches the games emotionally, and I'm a real pain in the ass to watch with because I'm as emotional as him. And when I was a player, and I never played at a high level, but when I played, a lot of my life, I was a hot-headed dude too. And don't let the Italian side fool you. I was an Irish, hot-blooded kid from Jersey. You can see the red hair. I look Irish. And I was an absolute emotional player too, and he just gets revved up. I thought early on, to be honest with you, and this is an intriguing storyline to this game, I thought early on, the first half, the refs were I loved how they were calling the game the first half of the first half. They really didn't let the whistle fly at all for the first 10 minutes of the game, and these are two defensive teams, and I thought it made for a good basketball game. I loved watching it. I didn't care that we were getting hit. And here's the thing. We were starting to flop around a little bit. Now, I'll give it to the guys that maybe it's because we've been in so many foul fests with the refs blowing the whistle nonstop since we've gotten to conference play this year. So they're expecting the calls and they're falling all over the place. But we were flopping. And I was like, stop flopping around and just play ball, guys. And the foul disparity in the first half was on our side. And then the second half comes around, and the refs were making good non-calls all first half, and then they were making some questionable calls on both sides the second half. But the foul disparity was way on Northwestern side the second half of the game, and then you have 2 flop calls on Paul, and I can't blame the refs. We were flopping around, and it was nonsense. They wanted to call a loose game, and then we start flopping around. They're like, all right, then we're going to give it to you. We're going to give you the game you want. I can't get mad. And you could see the refs were visibly getting agitated with Paul and with our guys. And so I thought a turning point in the game was when Paul hits that 3 that really should be finally putting the nail in the coffin and pulling us away. He has to flop when Audige barely touches him, and he makes the 3. He has to flop. He gets a flop call, and the ref's not having it. Now, did that call need to be made at that point in the game for what he did? It's not like he jumped on the floor that much. Not really, but I don't blame the refs. He flopped. And let's face it, if another team was flopping all over the place like that, we would be up in arms. So, he flopped, and that's what happens when you flop, and it changed the momentum a bit because then the guy hits a free throw, they get possession, they go on a 14-2 run, I think it was, until we were able to stymie it when we started scoring. And we came back. But Paul's got a reputation around the league with the referees, with the crowds, and with the other teams. And if you have that reputation, you're going to be targeted if you get hot-headed. He's got to get control of his emotions. He just does. This game could have gone a different way, and we would be all very, very frustrated. But it didn't go a different way, so we're good. At Camp Spencer, man. I mean, when we went out and got him, and when Pike brought in the transfer, and we knew we had to replace Gio and Ron, or at least do our best to try to get somewhere near replacing them, we knew it was going to be very difficult, almost an impossible task. You go out and get this young man, and you saw it early in out-of-conference play, and he was a little bit, just a tiny bit slow to get caught up to him with higher competition, but oh my goodness. This young man has ice in his veins, and this young man does not care. And in fact, I don't even think he doesn't care. I think he loves it. He looks like he's feeling himself out there, and that's what basketball is all about when you're an offensive player. And I'm not just saying he's an exclusively offensive player, because he's a good player on defense too, not to mention a good facilitator with the ball and finding guys to make, assists. So, he had the one bank shot, which isn't the prettiest thing ever, but hey, Northwestern had it too. At the end, I was surprised he was that open. looked like they were trying to trap Paul or double up there around the perimeter on the other side. They should always know where Spencer is. Let anybody else on our team take a three-point shot contested with one guy, as opposed to leaving Spencer open for even a millisecond. But they made that mistake, and he made them pay. And it's funny. Most of the players on our team, and I'm not trying to disparage anybody, most of the time when they let it fly, I'm like, I don't know. When he let it fly at the end there, I got to be honest with you, open like that, I thought it was going in. I was fairly confident, and I was right. So he sinks it. And then I will hand it. So then end of the game strategy type stuff. I got to hand it to Pike, and I got to hand it to the guys on that floor. They made a concerted effort to get Spencer the ball because they knew Northwestern had to foul and was going to foul, and they did foul. And Cam got the ball. And I was a little nervous because the crowd was screaming and yelling, and it was such a pivotal moment, and there was time in between the foul call and when he had to shoot. But he just nailed 2 shots. One after the other, swish, swish. And at that point, I was wondering, do we foul? Because remember, we had this issue with Ohio State. We had these issues before. Do we foul because there's 5 seconds left, or do we D up? And I was glad we D'd up. My thing was, hey, D up. Northwestern has not been shooting the ball well. They've had a couple decent shots, but they're not shooting the ball well overall. They're not a great three-point shooting team, especially not tonight. D up. D up. And quite frankly, look, if they drive it and they get it 2 and they foul you again, you got to get back to the line. Okay, fine. We'll play that game for another, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. If they actually hit a 3, well, we'll live with it. You got to live with that. That's that. You go to overtime where you try to throw the ball up with one more possession, but you D up. Then when it got down to 3-2 and Odij has the ball with 2 seconds left, I said, maybe you foul now because, let him hit the 2 shots and he's got no time left. But he chucks up a 3. It's nowhere near it, which is what I think was the way to play it. You D up, you let him shoot. That's what we did. They missed, which is likely to happen the way they were shooting all night. And you get the W. Shouldn't have been that hard, but it was. And this is the Big Ten. And it's not because I'm disrespecting Northwestern. Northwestern's a good team. Just the way things were going tonight, though, in particular, you would think it would have been a little more comfortable just because we were shooting so well, and they just were not. But nonetheless, we get the win. And you wanted to win, especially you can't lose a game like Iowa and then come back and lose in similar fashion to Northwestern, or even just drop 2 in a row with Ohio State coming to town in a couple days. You can't do that. If you want to stay ahead of the standings, you want to stay above 500, you want to rack up wins, you want your resume to look good, especially with road games, considering you kind of fumbled your out-of-conference schedule with neutral and road games. You really got to make that happen. We made it happen. Field goal percentages, the teams by the end of the night. Early on, Rutgers was shooting much better. By the end of the night, it almost was even. Northwestern was 21 of 51, 41.2%, and Rutgers was 23 of 54, 42.6%, so only slightly better. But three-pointers was a huge disparity. Then again, by the end of the game, they hit almost just as many three-pointers as we did, which is how that game evened out. They were 10 of 27, only shooting 37% from the arc, beyond the arc. We were 11 of 18, 61%. So we shot twice as well from a percentage standpoint. Our shot selection was better. But they still hit only one less three-pointer than us, which is why the game was close at the end. That is something to watch. I am curious as the next few Big Ten games take shape. What I'm looking at, if I'm being objective and I'm looking at this like, let's see what we do. Our defense, the last 2 games, guarding the perimeter, and as far as teams finding open shots either on the perimeter or down low, we've struggled a bit. We've struggled a bit to catch up to where the ball's going on the perimeter or down low. And we pressed today, we pressed tonight, but we weren't in that rhythm of pressing and just relentless defense that we've seen earlier in the Big Ten schedule. Now, that is to be expected. During the ebbs and flows of a basketball season, it's hard to maintain that level of insane, pure intensity. But you've got to try to do it. And again, I never played at a really high level, but there is an elite basketball camp, 5-star basketball camp. And I was a part of a team at that basketball camp as a teenager. And the only reason I bring this up, it was Honesdale. It was one of the camps was in Honesdale, and RIP to the founders and everything. I mean, that's just 5 stars, a great camp. But, and Garfinkel and all, I mean, just RIP. But I was on a team where we just were relentless the entire season. But that's only a week. It's only a week out in Pennsylvania. But we were up every day at 6 in the morning, stretching everything, and then we were playing. We were just balling, man. And if you can keep up that defensive intensity, it's going to be hard to beat this team. But we have not kept up that defensive intensity up to this point, in the last 2 games. So not a bad defensive game, but we've got to watch. The way they started the game, there's no reason they should have hit almost as many 3-pointers as we did by the end of the game. There's just not. So look, we get out of there with a victory. You want to get out of there with a victory. Take a deep breath. Come home. Practice. Reset. And you got a revenge game against Ohio State coming up this weekend. Win that game. Win that game and get yourself significantly ahead in the standings. But this was exactly the remedy. This was exactly what Rutgers needed to do tonight. And again, Cam Spencer, just an absolute offensive force. If he's going to play he's not going to play like that every game, and we know that, but if he's going to play like that down the stretch in certain games, and other guys like Cliff can have a big game when Spencer's off, or when they start to pay more attention to Spencer on the perimeter, if Cliff could get going down low, or Caleb or some of these other guys, Hyatt, Paul can start hitting the hole again and making things happen down low, then watch out for what we can do. But we've been saying this. We know this. This is Rutgers basketball. This is Big Ten basketball. This is how things go. And guys, if you haven't done so yet, click the subscribe button. It is right below me. Smash subscribe. We're going to have a ton of Rutgers content, as I said. We're also going to have Big Ten basketball content, but I haven't had anybody subscribe who's from another team or just Big Ten in general. I haven't gotten in contact with a lot of other Big Ten commentators. I would like to do that. I would like to start talking just Big Ten basketball in general. So if you're a Northwestern fan, if you're a Big Ten basketball fan, hit the subscribe button. Reach out to me. Send me a message. Drop a comment below. And let me know you want to collaborate, or let me know what you want to hear. And I will definitely dive in next time, if that starts happening, to Northwestern stats in their game. Because I've been following the Big Ten. I'm an avid Big Ten basketball follower, and I really enjoy a lot of the different teams, a lot of the different games, a lot of parity in this league. League's a lot of fun. I love talking about it beyond just Rutgers. So looking to continue to expand, but the only way I can expand is if I get more subscribers and the channel grows. We're trying to hit 100 subscribers by the end of this season at least, and I think we can do better than that. But if you're watching right now and you've watched before, or you've ever come across my channel, if you read on the banks, if you're a Rutgers fan, if you're a Big Ten fan, if you just like good sports content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I'll provide you with some content on the next game. Go RU, and I'll see you this weekend. Later.